Coming up next, On the Spot, we got a duo of live demos today with Dungeon Siege 3 on the PC and Gatling Gears. Next, we get updated on Star Wars The Old Republic in our interview and go on location to the Kaiser Garfield Medical Center and find out how games are being used to improve people's health. Ryan McDonald gets a behind-the-scenes look at Twisted Metal. Finally, the developers of Dead or Alive on the 3DS and Transformers Dark of the Moon dropped by earlier this week for some game demos. We're live and on the spot.
Hello and welcome everyone to Live on the Spot. I'm Maxwell McGee and we have got a fantastic show planned for you guys today, complete with fabulous prizes. But before we get to that, we're going to be taking a look at Dungeon Siege 3. And to help me do that, I am joined by Nathaniel Chapman, lead designer on the game. Nathaniel, what are we checking out here today?
So we're going to be looking at a new character we were showing off, Reinhardt. He's the wizard scholar from the city of Stonebridge, which is like a sort of steampunk future, sort of like mix of future tech and medieval fantasy. And so he kind of combines technological power with magic and sort of high fantasy.
So he's like a wizard caster type character?
Yeah, he's like a wizard caster, but he also has like a electrically charged gauntlet that he punches guys with, and magic. He has a magic belt that sort of energizes his spells. He can shoot lightning and do things like that. So he's kind of a fun mix of magic and technology.
So what is this crazy clockwork village we're seeing here?
So this is Stonebridge, which is sort of the hub of industry in the Kingdom of Ebb, which is where Dungeon Siege 3 takes place. And actually, the player's going into the Foundry right now, which is kind of the underworks of the city, and it's where all of the, where all the work gets done, where everything gets built. And actually, the player's going to go deal with a labor issue. The Cyclopses, as explained in this dialogue, have revolted and started killing their overseers, and no one really knows what's going on. They've never done this before, and so the players sent in to figure out what's going on and try to negotiate, either beat down the Cyclopses and get them back to work, or try to negotiate, a labor agreement with them.
Start some sort of Cyclops labor union.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of a fun example of one of the things that we're bringing to the Dungeon Siege franchise is, emphasis on dialogue and story and the ability to make choices about what you do, what impact you want to have on the story. So that's something that is a major focus of Dungeon Siege 3.
Now, folks, since we are live, do feel free to tweet us your questions at GameSpot on Twitter, or you can drop them in the live chat, and if I deem them worthy, they may find their way onto the show. So we're running through, looks like some sort of cave dungeon here.
Yeah, so this is actually inside the Foundry. It's sort of dug into the support structure underneath the city. So you'll see molten metal flows throughout. And actually, you'll see the rebelling Cyclopses and the Goblin agitators who are assisting them. And Reinhardt here is going to use all of his various powers to fight them. Right now, you're seeing him use his entropic magic stance. It's a long-range stance, and actually one of the tricks with it is that you can't hit guys close up. You can only hit guys at long range.
And then each character, they have like two different stances, and that defines what abilities you have access to?
Exactly. So each character has two stances. For Reinhardt, it's dynamic magic, which is more lightning-based, and it's his melee attacks in that stance all hit very close. And then entropic magic, which is kind of dark energy, time-based, and that hits only at long range. So it's really a balancing act between how big the groups are and what range you can engage them at. And they do change which abilities you have access to. So right now he's in dynamic magic stance, and he's got his lightning bolt ability, which you've been seeing a good amount of. He's got a decoy ability where he can teleport and leave behind a decoy who will go on and
sort of draw the enemy's fire away,
and then you can use your lightning bolts on them when they're far away. And then finally, he's got this electrocute ability, which is kind of like a charge in place. You kind of hold your gauntlet up and electrocute enemies as they get close. Then in dynamic stance, he's got this normal attack combo that is a long range, doesn't hit guys close up. He's got Geometry of Annihilation, which is what you're seeing right now, and that's a you place it down and it's an AOE damage to everyone inside of it. And then he's got Creative Destruction, which is one of the most fun abilities to use for him, in my opinion. Basically, you hold it down, and it's sort of like Electrocute, except it will damage enemies in the cone, but also heal your friends. So if you're playing co-op, which is one of the major features of Dungeon Siege 3, you can use it to like sort of spray your buddies with health, which is always a lot of fun.
Well, yeah, tell us more about how the co-op play is going to differ from the single-player experience.
So you can play through the whole story from beginning to end in co-op. One of the big differences is in single-player, you play with yourself, and you can choose to have one companion. In co-op, your second player will replace your companion, or you can go online and actually get up to 4 players on an online play. So you can get a nice big group going, and that's a lot of fun. There's a lot of, and there's plenty of loot to go around. It's definitely a very loot-heavy game. One of the fun things about playing co-op is actually we tried to focus on evening out the amount of loot competition. So like Reinhardt's armor slots are all unique to him. So if anyone picks up a piece of gear for Reinhardt, you don't have to like trade it and like hope your buddy isn't a jerk and doesn't give you your item.
It just pops into his inventory.
Yeah, it just pops into Reinhardt's inventory. But there are a couple like rings and amulets and accessories and things like that. They actually do share, so you do get a little bit of that loot competition. Just because in co-op it's always fun to encourage you to fight your friends.
You're shutting down these poor little goblin guys here. They look kind of adorable.
Yeah, they are cute, but they are mean. They actually one of the goblins' special attacks is to steal some gold and then try to run away.
Oh, what a jerk!
Yeah, I know. So that makes you definitely want to kill them. And our friend here is a little over-leveled for this area, so he's definitely mowing down some enemies.
So tell us a little bit more about the other 3 characters in the game. Maybe just like a brief overview.
Sure. So there's Lucas Montbaron, who is sort of a knight tank type character. He's more melee focused. He's got his stances are a one-handed sword and shield, which is kind of a more defensive single target stance. And then he's got a two-handed sword, which is great against areas or groups of guys, hitting AoE attacks. There's Katarina, who is a Laskanzi witch. She uses 2 pistols, shotguns, or a rifle. And the rifle is super good, high damage, single target attacks. And the shotguns are actually close up, but multi-target. So it's kind of the opposite of
Got
Lucas.
that spread effect.
Yeah, exactly. And the opposite of Reinhardt, where his long-range attack hits multiple guys and his close-range attack hits one guy. And then there is Anjali, who is a fire archon, which is kind of like a mix of a human and a fire elemental. And her 2 stances are actually, she switches between human form and fire form. And in human form, she fights with a spear. And in fire form, she throws fireballs and has a lot of kind of fire magic related stuff. So those are and then of course Reinhardt, who you're seeing here.
So this game, you guys have chosen to leave out a character creation system. Can you tell us more about the reasoning behind that decision? Well,
so one of the things that we really wanted to focus on was developing these new characters in the Dungeon Siege universe. And so the characters have a lot of backstory and a lot of lore that's specifically associated with them. And we sort of tell the story of the Legion through these characters. On top of that, it allowed us to really give them a very distinct flavor, because you don't make a character out of anything. There's a character and you sort of take the role of that character as you're playing. But we do have a lot of character customization. So if I play Reinhardt from beginning to end, he'll probably look really different from the way you play Reinhardt, as an example. So every level you get to pick different abilities you want to use. You also get to pick proficiencies, which are like customization points for your abilities. So every ability you can customize in one of 2 different ways. And that basically sets up how you, for instance, you might have an ability that throws an AoE on the ground, and you can customize it to do more damage or to heal your friends. And then you also get talent points, which are like passive buffs to your character. So there's a lot of different ways to customize your abilities and to customize the way you want to play the game.
So on the topic of the game's story, could you set that up for us a little bit more and how it connects with the previous games?
Sure. So the first 2 games also took place in the Nation of Ab. Our game takes place substantially later in the timeline of that universe. But we do make a lot of callbacks to the first 2 games, so if you played them, you'll kind of get more
There's a couple little nods.
There's definitely some nods in there, but we wanted people who hadn't played the games yet to still be able to enjoy them.
Not be completely lost.
Yeah, exactly. So there's definitely some references to the first few games, and the idea is one of the organizations that was very important in the first couple of games was the 10th Legion, who kind of protected and kept the land of Ebb together. The idea is that 30 years before the events of Dungeon Siege 3, the 10th Legion was cast into exile and defeated by this woman named Jane Cassender. and you are a descendant of the 10th Legion who's been hunted your whole life, and you're trying to reestablish the 10th Legion as a force in Ebb while evading, the assassins from Jane Cassandra. And so that's kind of the setup for the story of the game. And the game begins with your character narrowly missing an assassination attempt, and sort of you start from there and go forward.
All right, very cool. So what have we missed so far here in our demo?
In terms of...
Well, I mean, just where are we headed? What's happened while we've been setting up the game?
While we've been setting up the game, our friend has been destroying some goblins and cyclopses here. We've seen him use... you see, just there you saw the Clockwork Trap ability, which is... it's like a landmine ability you place on the ground, and you actually can lure enemies into it. One of the things we wanted to do is make our abilities not really focused on the normal kinds of things you see in an RPG. Yes, Reinhardt has a lightning bolt, but it does extra stuff, like it bounces between targets, or it has a chance to stun enemies. Or he's got this this landmine that he can cast on the ground with Clockwork Trap, and then you can customize it to stun enemies or do a ton of bonus damage. So there's definitely a lot of ways that we've tried to make the abilities have a lot more sort of flavor and kind of spiciness outside of...
Are there certain abilities that work better with each other?
Yeah, definitely. There's also certain abilities that work really well. You can customize to work really well in co-op. So as an example, that creative destruction ability where he can spray damage and health to damage to enemies and health to friends is a lot of fun. You can actually follow your buddy around in co-op and you be like a health gun for him, which is kind of fun. So that's definitely a lot to enjoy.
So can you tell us what sort of changes can we expect between the console version of the game and the PC version of the game?
So the biggest change will be the control scheme. Now you can play on the PC if you happen to have a 360 gamepad. You can plug it in and play using the gamepad, but you can also obviously play with mouse and keyboard. So the biggest change is going to be the control scheme. Obviously also the PC is going to have more graphics customization options, and you'll be able to crank up the res and anti-aliasing and all that good stuff.
Very good.
You'll still have all the same co-op options. In fact, if you do have a 360 controller, you can actually play on mouse and keyboard, and then have your buddy plug in a 360 controller and play on the same PC together.
Oh, you can do split screen?
No, it's actually just like on the console.
Okay.
Yeah, just exactly like the console version. We wanted to allow PC players to have that same kind of experience. And it's been a long time since you've been able to play a game like that, like sitting two people in front of a PC, but it's still a lot of fun. So we're really happy to give people that option.
All right, Nathaniel, well, I've got one more question for you. Can you remind the kids at home when your game's coming out and what it's coming out for?
It is coming out for PC, PS3, and 360, and it's coming out June 21st in the United States and June 17th in Europe.
All right, very cool. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So there you have it, folks. That was a look at Dungeon Siege 3. Now we're going to kick it over to Andrew Park for an interview about Star Wars: The Old Republic. So let's take it away.
Right, so we're here at EA with Daniel from BioWare. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Absolutely, glad to have you guys here and actually playing.
So Daniel, we're seeing a lot more of the player versus environment story version of the game. A lot more new content, and we understand that there have been some new enhancements that have been made over the course of the development to the PvE game. Can you tell us about some of those?
Absolutely. So right now you guys are getting to see a lot of new stuff. We've really got a lot of focus going on for the multiplayer. So what you're seeing out there is the social points, which you're gaining from doing multiplayer quests and winning multiplayer conversations. You're seeing a lot more heroic quests, which are our multiplayer quests where you need a full group. We've had a lot of players going out there and really working on their game, as you see people trying to figure out how to make the teams work together in concert. One of the most exciting things, people said, hey, we love the multiplayer dialogue, but a lot of the times we're broken up and we're in different places. So one of the things we premiered for this play session people got to see was the holo communicator calls. So if one character starts a conversation and the other guy is on the other side of the world, he can just pull out his holo communicator, call into the conversation. He shows up in the conversation as a blue hologram, can participate, keeps the group together as far as the story goes, but everyone can be doing their own thing. So the multiplayer dialogue, we were always trying to go for that feel of sort of a bunch of guys in a room trying to compete with each other to talk. So you roll which is super fun. There's a random roll for the dialogue, although there are things you can get later that we're going to talk about further down the line that will actually enhance your ability to win dialogue rolls. Then somebody talks. Whoever talks gets social points as a reward. So it also gives you an additional little thing to strive for, and social points can be used later to buy social items and some cool stuff we're going to roll out and talk about in the future. Social points also get you titles. You probably have already noticed on your character, if you go to the character screen, you can pull down, there's a number of titles that you've gotten for different achievements, different things that you've done. So what we're really trying to do is keep all of that stuff together to keep people wanting to do the story and wanting to do it together.
One of the things that we touched on is, I guess, the difference between alignment and faction. Could you go a bit more into that?
Absolutely. So one of the things we had to do is, because we decided you were going to be able to play on the Imperial side, so you can play a Sith, you can play an Imperial agent, bounty hunter, we need to make sure there was a solid difference between morality and faction. Where you were born versus who you've decided to be. So you can be a light side Sith, you can be a dark side Jedi. That doesn't mean you're going to switch sides, because you're from a country, you're from a people that have a goal and a place, right? One of the things we say is, you know, a really dark side Allied soldier in World War II would not have gone and joined the other side. He would probably be torturing the other side. It's not the same thing. And one of the things we had to do that, to make it make sense, is we took the light side, dark side decisions and we put them on big action decisions. So things the player has actually decided to do. It doesn't make sense for a Jedi to tell his master that he's dark side. It doesn't make sense for a Sith to tell his master he's light side. So you can say anything you want. You can be a smart aleck, you can be nice, you can be whatever. It's not going to affect your dark side, light side. It's when you get into the situation and you have to decide, are you going to kill those people, or are you going to try to fake their death and smuggle them out and make it look like you finished it? That's when you're going to get your light side, dark side points.
One of the things that's now in is the player ships. Can we talk a bit more about, I guess, the player ships and kind of the rules that they'll play in the game?
Absolutely. So your player ship is really your home base. It is housing. It is your portable center for your entire crew. It is your crafting center. So, you know, for crafting, we've got the crew skills where your companion characters do the systems. All that goes on your ship. It's really your headquarters. So players can take it. They can fly around the galaxy. They can go planet to planet. Once you've got your ship, pretty much the galaxy is open and you're free to go wherever you want.
Could we talk a bit about the capital cities and the roles they'll play in the game?
Absolutely. So the two capital cities are Coruscant and Dromund Kaas. Coruscant for the Republic, Dromund Kaas for the Imperials. And there's kind of a third one that we've always looked at, which is Nar Shaddaa. Nar Shaddaa is the big Hutt capital, and Nar Shaddaa is kind of the neutral ground where people can also go. That's the big flashy area with the casinos, with all the craziness and the sort of underworld. And those three places have everything that you would need. There are vendors, there are people who are going to be able to take care of your basic crafting abilities, your basic crafting needs on other planets. But if you want to know that what you need is there, you're going to your capital. So one of the things we make sure to do is not just drive players back to those areas through that, but also through story. It makes sense that you're going to need to go as a trooper back to Coruscant a lot. You're going to need to deal with command. You're going to need to go deal with your main stuff. So we try to keep high-level players going in and out of those worlds so players can see them. Right, it's very aspirational to be able to see high-level players going around, but also so we get a real community feel and people are used to interacting and seeing players around.
To close out, if you could remind our viewers at home when the game's coming out and for which platform?
Star Wars The Old Republic is slated for a 2011 release on the PC.
Thanks so much, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to On the Spot Live. I mean, you've been here the whole time, but, you know, we're back on the live set. Chris Waters here with Tor Thorson for, you guessed it, the news.
Yeah, you sound peppy today, don't you?
I'm kicking it up a notch, Tor, because I'm trying to, like, give some energy to all those...
That's because there's big news today.
Exactly.
Big news. Actually, it's been big news for the last week. So what I wanted to do for our viewers today is basically run down what's been going on the last week. The big story that's dominating everything, that's the PlayStation Network outage and data breach, a.k.a. fiasco, is going on. So last time we checked in, my associate Tom Agrino was here telling you that it had just gone down and they hadn't said exactly why.
Yes.
Then on Friday, they said, actually admitted it was an external intrusion that had actually a malicious attack of sorts that brought down the network.
Okay.
And they weren't sure when, and then it went from being a day or two down to they weren't sure when they were going to bring it back.
Question mark, question
Question mark. Then on Saturday, they said they were going to have to rebuild the entire system to fix the PSN outage, and that it was a time-consuming process, and they didn't know when it was going to be back.
So the intrusion, kind of like a sabotage? I mean,
it's a hacker attack. They don't know if it's anonymous or not. I mean, Anonymous, for those of you who don't know out there, Anonymous had previously attacked PSN as kind of revenge for the George Hotz hacking thing.
Sure.
And then, but then they had actually said that they weren't behind this attack at all. They were like, we don't endorse this.
So the culprit is still mysterious, but suffice to say, like massive rebuilding is going on.
The effects of massive rebuilding is going on. But people were still wondering what's the status of their information, what's happening, is it compromised or not compromised?
Yeah.
Finally, on Tuesday, Sony admitted that yes, all personal data was compromised by attack, all 77 million PlayStation users' accounts, and that out of an abundance of caution, that you should check if your credit card information was compromised as well. Now,
so that's sort of looking at your bank statement, seeing if there's anything fishy going on?
They finally admitted that the attack happened between April 17th and April 19th, and that it affected both the PlayStation Network and Curiosity, which is their kind of online music media thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, they said you can attack, they advised people to look on credit monitoring agencies, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, just in case, but they were taking steps to enhance security and strengthen our network infrastructure by rebuilding the system again. Then, drum roll, on Wednesday, the first lawsuit attached to the outage was filed by one Christopher Johns of Birmingham, Alabama, and he filed suit against SCA on behalf of himself and trying to get a class action status for the suit because of Sony's, quote, failure to maintain adequate computer data security of consumer personal data and financial data, including but not limited to credit card data, and the reasonably foreseeable exploitation of such inadequate security at defendant Sony by computer hackers, quote unquote.
Now, a class action lawsuit like that could theoretically be open to all PSN
Anybody.
users.
Just kind of like the last class action lawsuit of a large scale I can remember was the hot coffee lawsuit over Grand Theft Auto.
Right.
And then after that lasted 5 years, and then basically anybody at the end either got
like $8.
You got a refund of their money or like a check for $5. So that was wonderful. Then also on Wednesday, Sony. Well, first off, the British, U.S., and Canadian authorities actually announced that they are looking into it. U.S. Representative Mary Bono, who is the widow of Sonny Bono, I got you, babe. She asked members of the U.S. House of Representatives Subcommittee for Commerce, Manufacturing, and Trade to begin looking into the data leak, and then also Canada's Privacy Commissioner told the Vancouver Sun that it too is launching an inquiry, and I think it's the Inspector General's office or something in the UK was looking into it as well.
So is that at that inquiry? Isn't them like? Is it not necessarily them trying to find out the culprit?
That's them asking Sony what's going on,
yeah,
and why. And their privacy is a big issue, especially in Canada and Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So not that it's not here, but I mean, so that was also.
But do we even have a privacy commissioner in the United States?
We've got the committee on that trade, and I mean, I guess it would probably be getting really serious if the Federal Trade Commission started looking into it.
Okay.
Just so they looked into Cod Coffee as well.
Mm-hmm.
I guess another big development also on Wednesday was that Sony, well, Reuters reported, but Sony did not admit that Sony had enlisted the Cybercrimes Bureau of the FBI to look into the matter.
Okay.
So
they're really trying to get all the help they can get.
Right. They're trying to get all the help they can get. Then today on Thursday, Sony said that all the credit card data that was online during the attack was encrypted, and there is no evidence that any of it has actually been stolen. Mm-hmm. Which is good news.
Yes. You're not getting your identity thieved, maybe.
Maybe not. They also pointed out the fact that users' credit card security codes, which is a 3-digit number you have to put in to complete transactions, was never on PSN, so they would also need that to complete transactions.
Sure.
And they admitted that they now have law enforcement in the process, so they're on the case.
So they're on the case, and they're communicating about sort of what's going on.
They're being as communicative as a large corporation which has its kind of pants around its ankles at this point can be.
Yep.
Because I mean, the thing you have to understand about a big corporation like this is they can't really make a statement until they know the facts 100%. Because then they said something and it wasn't true, they could get sued for it. So that's why they're kind of usually extra cautious about
this. They hedge their bets.
Right.
Yeah.
And they also, and speaking of hedging their bets, they also said that even though they said on Tuesday that the PSN would be up, some services would be restored within a week. That they said today that we want to be very clear that we will only restore operations. We are confident that the network is secure. So that means that they could it could be longer.
So possibly. Some stuff's going to be back online on Tuesday.
On Tuesday, right.
But that's, only what they're very confident in. So, probably not the store, probably not transactions.
They're not. They said some services could be restored on Tuesday.
Okay.
And emphasis on could be restored.
Could be. So it looks like it's another long weekend for PlayStation
Right.
owners.
Oh no, I'm not done.
Oh, man.
So, but then also today, Wells Fargo, American Express, and MasterCard told the Bloomberg News Service that they haven't found any PSN-related weird credit card activities. So that's also a good
nice.
sign. So,
Yeah.
so that maybe this hasn't been stolen en masse. Though right now, but the point is that people's name, address, login info, that all could have been compromised or stolen. So identity theft is also a big issue.
Like right there, sort of waiting to. I don't know. It's out there.
Right.
Someone has this. We don't know who.
We don't know who.
We're advertising caution here, folks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep an eye on your credit and whatnot. And
if anyone's really concerned about where to get answers for this, there's a really good pretty consistent fact on the Sony website. If you go to the PlayStation blog, I should answer most of your questions of what to do. But keep an eye on your credit, and caveat emptor.
Well, we have at least one person in the chat room saying that they already feel healthier since PSN has been down for so long. So maybe there's
go take a jog.
Maybe there's some ancillary
have
benefits.
a sauna.
Well, Tor, thanks for getting us fully updated on the PSN debacle, I guess. I want to use that word. So.
Why not?
We'll be keeping you updated, of course, tomorrow and through the weekend as that story continues to develop, folks. Now we're going to move on with the show, and it's off to the 3DS for some punchy kicky. We've got Dead or Alive Dimensions, a demo coming up for you right now. Let's check it out.
Game Demo.
Hey everybody, it's Ricardo, and I have a special guest, fresh from Japan. We've got Hayashi-san from Tecmo. You might know him as the head ninja over at Team Ninja, and they have been hard at work on a 3DS game, Dead or Alive Dimensions, and you've actually brought it by. So the last time we saw it was in January at the Nintendo event.
Yeah.
How's development been going?
今回、Nintendo 3DS
Since last time we've shown the game, we've been really hard at work with the networking features of the game, so local and online play, as well as adding the Street Pass and Spot Pass features into the game as well. So we really put a lot of work into that. And the game is pretty much finished. It's ready to go very soon, and we're really happy to be able to show that to you today.
All right, now as far as the visuals go, it is one of those games that reminds people that the 3DS actually is pretty powerful hardware. So can you talk to us about the graphical quality and how you guys have implemented 3D into the game?
そうですね。
Yeah, for the graphics, we've put in quite a lot of work from our end into Dead or Alive Dimensions. What we really wanted to do is to make sure that all our fans and all you players out there have a really good experience on a portable, just the same as you would have on a console. So we just put in a lot of work and to make the game look as good as it can. Also, if you turn the 3D slider off as well, you'll be able to play the game in 60 frames a second, and I can just assure you it looks great.
So besides the 3D, the 3DS obviously offers more connectivity options than we've ever seen in a Nintendo handheld. And you guys have done a lot of little tricks to take advantage of that in some interesting ways. So talk to us about how you're handling Street Pass and Spot Pass.
Just to briefly touch on network play, you can play locally against a friend, or you can actually go and do a tag challenge mode where you and a friend can play cooperatively and just battle one really powerful enemy. Or you can also just get online and play against players worldwide as well. In regard to the connectivity, we've actually focused on accentuating the Street Pass and the Spot Pass modes. Just to tell you a bit about the Street Pass first, is you can exchange your fight records there, and so when you go past someone, your records are going to be exchanged automatically, and so you can swap that around. If you leave your 3DS on sleep mode, and if it's connected to the internet, all of us here at Team Ninja, what we're going to do is we're going to give you one costume per day over a 30-day period, so you'll see more than 30 costumes in the game.
As a longtime fan of the series, who's very familiar with the story, it's been interesting to see the Chronicle mode, because this game very much feels like you guys are kind of wrapping everything up, maybe closing this chapter and leaving the door open for something else. So what can you tell us about the future of the series and how this game fits into it?
So we have decided to make DOAD a sort of a best hits version for all the fans out there, wrapped up in a tight little package. So I'm sure that all fans will not be disappointed with Dead or Alive Dimensions. With Dead or Alive Dimensions, we've actually, what we focused on is to sort of close up a certain chapter of Dead or Alive's history and to just draw a line from then and move on into the future.
All right, well, thank you, sir. Now, before we sign off, Dead or Alive Dimensions is coming out, next couple weeks. So we probably won't see you for a while. What are we going to see the next time we see you? I mean, it's probably going to be June, like E3. Got anything to show at E3?
そうですね。まあ今回デッドディメンションズがまあ5月
We here at Team Ninja have
が発売
another
した後
little
は
neat
まあチーム忍者にはもう一つの
we
IP があります
held
から、
dear
じゃあ
for
そ
all
れを
these
ぜ
years
ひ
and we will show that to
お
you
披露目できると
at
き
E3 this
に
year.
お会いしましょう。
All right, that probably sounds like Ninja Gaiden. And, we have a stage show at E3. And we like to have cool games on the stage show. So let me go ahead and put you on the spot and say, should people tune back to our site around E3 to maybe see a demo of Ninja Gaiden 3?
まあ忍者ガイデン3は E3 で
We'll
は
have the next,
プレイアブルで
you said Ninja Gaiden,
Gaiden
as you spoiled it for us.
Ninja
The next
Gaiden は
Ninja Gaiden, yes, we'll have it as a
ネクスト忍者ガイデン
playable
はまあ E3 でプレイアブル
E3
出す
yes,
よ
we
うな
would
予定
definitely
になっ
like
て
to
ます
show
の
it to
で
you guys. So look
ぜ
forward
ひ
to
リ
us
カ
on
ル
the
ドも
stage.
触ってみてほしいと思います。
That sounds like we just booked an appointment, which is good to hear. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
There you go. That is your quick look at Dead or Alive Dimensions, which is coming out this May for the 3DS. And it looks like we just confirmed that we're going to have Ninja Gaiden 3 on our stage at E3, so I'd probably come back for that too. All right, well, that's what we've got for you now. Let's go back to the show.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to Live on the Spot. We're going to move now from the lovely ladies of Dead or Alive to the grinding gears of Gatling Gears. And to help me do that, I'm joined by Alex Charlo, product manager on the game. Alex, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
So Alex, what is Gatling Gears and what are we looking at here today?
So right now we're actually looking at a particular mode in Gatling Gears that we're showing for the first time. It's called Survival Mode. Gatling Gears as a whole is a top-down twin-stick shooter. It's got a really robust campaign mode, lots of weapon upgrades, a robust scoring system, big boss battles. Basically, it's a really epic, classic feeling experience. Survival mode is very unique. So the game itself has online and offline co-op throughout the campaign, but in survival mode, the co-op works a little bit differently. So what you're seeing here right now is we are in a set location. We've got 2 players going side by side, and they've got 3 basic goals. The first goal is to survive wave after wave of enemies. The second goal is to protect the 2 water towers that you see in the bottom right and left-hand corner of the screen. If those get destroyed by the little minecarts that are coming in, they lose. But the third, and the really interesting part about this is, even though they're playing co-op, they're both competing for score. And the way you accumulate score is, how many hits you've taken, how much life you have left, how many of those gears you're collecting, how many guys you're killing, how many guys you're squishing. And to redeem those points, you have to beat it. So what you'll notice is when people play, they'll be friendly up until about stage 7 or 8 or
about
9.
wave 9.
Then all of a sudden they get a little shisty with the health, and they'll start fighting with each other. It's really, really, really challenging. There's different difficulty levels, so you can obviously ratchet it up or ratchet it down, depending on how you like to play the game. But there's a ton of different enemy types, and it's all about dodging. To be perfectly honest, it's also about not focusing on one thing for too long, because as you can see, there's so many things on screen right now. If you stare at one, you get hit from behind by 3 others. And it's just a really fun experience.
All right, folks, now as a reminder, we are live, so please feel free to send us your questions via Twitter at GameSpot on Twitter, or you can drop them in the live chat right over here, and I will take a look every now and again and try to work them into the show. Now, Alex, can you set the stage for us a little bit? How does this game tie into the storyline from your previous game, Greed Corps?
Sure. So Greed Corp was a turn-based strategy game set in a world called Mistbound. And in this world, the civilizations that live there have kind of gone under an industrial revolution. And while that's yielded some really awesome new machines, it's also causing the world to be strip-mined of all of its natural resources. This game actually isn't necessarily tied into Greed Corp, but the inspiration from it came from the team building these units and wondering what it would be like to control those in real time. So if you play Greed Corp, you'll recognize some of the enemies and friendly units. But again, it's a whole new style of control.
All right, very cool. So There's a ton of stuff going
Yeah,
on the
it's
screen
pretty,
right
yeah, it's
now.
pretty
It is
great.
getting intense.
Survival is definitely the name of the game.
So what are the different weapons that we have access to on our walkers here?
Sure. So your Gatling Gear mechs have a Gatling gun, which you can shoot in any direction. You have unlimited bullets, but the range is a bit short. They've got cannons, which are the rockets that you see them shooting out. You've got grenades, which are very powerful, but take a long time to recharge. And then you've got a fail-safe weapon, which it looks like one of them used already, which is called the Spark Bomb. And what the Spark Bomb does is it clears everything off of the screen.
It's like your panic button.
Exactly, yeah. The problem with that, though, is that if you use it, you get far less points in the end. So you really kind of want to save that one until you get towards the back half. When you're playing through campaign mode, all of these weapons are upgradable, which is great. You can also pick up temporary power-ups, which you might see these guys doing. They look gold. They give you a temporary boost in terms of how your weapon looks, how it behaves, how much damage it does, the rate of fire, the width of fire, and really kind of changes the experience.
Can you tell us more about how these upgrades work? Am I switching out different weapons, or am I making my current weapons better?
Sure. So in survival mode, you're given preset weapons with the exception of power-ups. In the campaign mode, you'll be searching for pieces of gold, and as you accumulate these golds, you can approach stores and you can sell the gold to the store for a weapon upgrade. Now the cool thing about this is you can downgrade just as easily as you upgrade. So if you make a decision, let's say you want to boost your armor, and then you realize, I'm not taking that many hits, I want to boost my Gatling, but I don't have enough gold, you can get the gold back from the armor, bring that back down, and then boost your Gatling gun up. So there's a lot of different strategies that you can kind of play out depending on your style.
So you can switch it out as need be.
Absolutely, yeah. If you're really good, I mean, you just keep upgrading it straight through. But if you're one of those guys that likes to play hard mode, this game can get ridiculously hard, and you're going to want to manage which upgrade you're using at which point in time.
All right. Well, EJ902 in the chat wanted to know if there was any sort of character customization, and I think we just covered that. So.
A little bit, yeah. There's also, as you collect gears through campaign mode, you'll also be able to unlock some really cool special treats that'll give you an element of customization as well.
Really?
Yeah. You have to
You
wait
want to
to
give us
find out,
maybe a little hint on
You're
that?
going to have to wait to see what they are.
All right. So the Gatling boost, that was one of the power-ups that you were just talking about?
Exactly, yeah. The player in the blue mech right now has the Gatling booster, which, as you can see, changes the visual effects, but it also changes the rate of fire, the width of fire, and the strength behind it. And again, in this kind of element where you're playing cooperatively, but not so cooperatively, those weapon pickups can become premium items.
I think the technical term is co-opetition.
Co-opetition,
I've
I
heard
like
that
it.
before.
Yeah, it's also pretty crazy when you play survival mode in particular, because you both kind of got to do your role. For example, if both players kind of huddle on one side of the screen and ignore the other side, then there's going to be a flood of missiles and weapons coming in from the other side. So you really got to manage your enemies, really kind of prioritize who's giving you the most trouble, where should I be sitting, and how can I dodge effectively? Because if you get yourself stuck in a corner, it's going to be really hard.
All right, so for this map, we're trying to protect these two water towers, but what other sorts of survival mode scenarios can we expect?
Sure. So there is a desert environment where you're trying to protect these trees that are huddled in the center of the screen, and these gigantic tree grinders, or wood chippers, I guess, are approaching. And that stage is a completely different set of enemies. So, for example, you'll come across tanks who can temporarily disable your weapons. So if you can imagine this pandemonium and the inability to shoot temporarily gets pretty hairy. There's another mode as well, which takes place on a bit more of an ice level, and you've got lots of bridges and ditches that you've got to maneuver around. So that's a tighter, more compressed space.
All right, very cool. Well, I think I've got one final question for you, Alex. Can you remind the kids at home when your game is coming out and what it's coming out for?
Absolutely. So Gatling Gears will be out on Xbox Live Arcade on May 11th. It'll be out on PlayStation Network in the US on May 17th. And May 18th on PlayStation Network in Europe.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome, thanks for having us.
All right, so now we're going to kick it to a feature we shot at Garfield Medical Center with Kaiser Permanente to take a look at how video games are helping with the world of healing. So let's take a look.
In the pursuit of gaining better health through better living, Doctors at the Kaiser Garfield Medical Center look to gain every logistical advantage utilizing a recreated but fake hospital and now video games in order to make patient care as safe and effective as possible.
It looks exactly the way it is if you walk into one of our hospitals like this room. We also have some very open space in this building where we can just use cardboard boxes and plywood walls and put things up and down in 2 hours. And if we put something together, we can test it with clinicians, bring nurses in, bring doctors in, actually create an emergency situation, for example, and we find that, gee, wouldn't it be better if the door opened this way instead of that way?
Dr. James Lewis, Senior Technology Analyst of the Kaiser Permanente Innovation and Advanced Technology Group, led GameSpot on a tour of the Garfield Center, giving us a look at the different technologies used throughout the facility.
In the hospital, safety and efficiency are paramount, and then we try to be member-focused, patient-focused in our design, and in fact, one of the larger areas for us moving forward as an innovation group is the creation of what we call our human-centered design team, where we have people who use ethnography, video journalism, surveying, going out and actually living the life of the people that we're treating, whether it's here or at home, to understand, some of their needs a lot better.
With nearly all the necessary sections of a hospital recreated to full scale within an unmarked building, doctors and researchers are able to make small but effective changes to the way doctors, nurses, and patients interact with one another and the amenities of the hospital itself.
When I'm wearing this, you can't talk to me. Now, of course, all the nurses said, I want to wear this all day. But we made it clear that this is for medication administration. We also created a safe zone around the medication dispensing device, that when they're at that, nobody else can touch them or be within a certain radius and talk to them. That, plus a variety of other processes and so forth, rolled out to our hospitals, decreased medication error by some enormous amount, like 90%, and then it became recognized by the Joint Commissions of Hospitals and promulgated to other organizations as a best practice.
Today, doctors and researchers at the Garfield Center are starting to put video games to use when it comes to inspiring and motivating patients. In more and more cases, games like Dr. Hero are being specifically developed to help patients, nurses, and doctors communicate and follow through on prescribed health programs. GameSpot was invited for Kaiser Permanente's Gamification Day, a day where representatives from companies like Ubisoft got to come and show doctors and others the games they either had available or were in development that were designed to help doctors do their jobs better and to help people stay healthy.
You have to know this is what you're supposed to order, and so that's what we're trying to teach people. So this is the protocol we're trying to learn. And you can see if you sat there with that chart,
it would be
pretty difficult.
Or to remember, I know you should have a checklist anyway, but
to remember that in the heat of somebody bleeding out. So it's really hard. So that's why we built all these scenarios such that we just practice all this. And then you don't have to sit there and try to get the chart or think. Let's get some points. Let's get a hysterectomy going here. Let's go perform surgery, hysterectomy. Go for it. And go suture, scalpel, absorbable suture, and perform. Yeah, you got 1,000 points. Good deal. So 823, not bad, not bad. So we're going to be doing some pre and post testing for them. We're going to let them download it, do a test before, a test after. They play it for a little while before it'll be available to externally.
So we should see this more in the news in the future. Okay, thanks for talking to us.
What you see here is an actual facilitator-led module that allows the facilitator to have complete control over the patient that they're handling. This is actually being used by Jeff Takeman at Duke University, and he has a lot of neat scenarios that he puts his students through. This entire 3D scenario is being recorded, so they can jump back in, that whoever was in there in the first place, and go through step by step what went wrong, what went right. And at that point, when he starts blurting out orders, he can say, you should have come in and told me to step back. And this is driven by the Unreal Engine, which is a very popular 3D engine. So you can see the detail that we're able to put onto the iPad using that engine. First, as the student, I can actually check vitals, which is, as I mentioned, controlled by the facilitator. So if I wanted this to, say this patient is crashing, I could change that very quickly, and then it shows up immediately on the student's version. So then the instructor will say, we need to hang, he's losing blood, we need to hang some blood. Let me make sure this isn't going to be... Okay, it's a good bag of blood. So then we can go ahead and hang that on here. And then everything in here is interactable in that sense. So I'm going to insert the wrist IV. And then after I do that, you'll actually start to see the blood bag start to drain since he has an IV in him. I can also show you that I can take an x-ray of his leg, and then I'll get that feedback over here on the monitors right away to show that.
To give them like an expedited
Exactly.
control.
We actually worked on the original America's Army as well, and that also uses the Unreal Engine, which is where we kind of got started using the Unreal Engine. From there, we haven't been working with America's Army nearly as much, but we've branched off and started doing a lot more medical work rather than Army work. Now, we still do a lot of Army medicine. The next one that's going to play is actually done for the Department of Defense, which is a mass casualty trainer, which uses the physiology on a large scale, up to 100 different patients that you can triage. And the goal for that was to work with the speed of triage as well as the accuracy of triage. And that was made by George Washington University, or funded by George Washington University, for use with all of their first responders.
So whether you're a player, nurse, or doctor, it would appear that video games in the medical industry have a great deal to teach us. Hopefully this is just scratching the surface of all the elements that we'll be able to take advantage of from both video games and simulations for both patients and doctors in the future. Thanks for watching.
All right, we're back on set. Thanks to Jody for venturing out to Kaiser Permanente for that piece, which reminded me, Maxwell, of this is a game called Life and Death. Do you have any recollection of this at all? It was a surgery game back in the day.
Well, Chris, I'll have you know that I play the game of Life or Death every day when I get on the 38 to come down here to work.
Dude, but so that's, I mean, that's taking your life into your own hands. This was like, you would straight up do an appendectomy and have to like click on the tray and pull out the right clamps and like cut your way through the various layers of subcutaneous blah, blah, blah. I could never get past the first one because there was like one clamp I couldn't get. And then my patient would not recover very well from the appendectomy. But yeah, that was a fun memory for me. Maxwell, what's up, dude? We're going on to we have a tape segment coming up next that unfortunately is going to be a little bit like less big than it normally is.
There may be a slight reduction in the amount of PSN content coming our way.
This is our weekly Aaron Sampson taking a look at this week on digital downloads. He sort of combs through PC, 360, PSN, Wii Shop Channel, etc. to bring you the latest on what's downloadable. You know, that recent news, you get it. PSN is not going to, it's just probably not going to feature.
Having just a bit.
Yeah, and I mean, I was talking to the Gatling Gears
guns.
Guys
it
back,
has both of those.
I was talking to him backstage, and he's crossing his fingers that PSN's going to be back up for when his game launches. I mean, that's mid-May, so we're optimistic that it's going to be back up. But alas, not this week. That doesn't mean you can't download stuff if you have another system. Let's check out This Week in Digital Downloads.
GameSpotters, this is Aaron Sampson bringing you a list of top digital downloads this week on Xbox Live and PlayStation Network. New this week, on XBLA you can find Outland. Chaos and Balance are having their end-of-calendar domestic dispute, and it's up to you as Mr. Right Now to join up with a hero from the past to restore balance so people can get some sleep around here. What does all this mean? Flip between red and blue, dodging same color attacks, and landing fatal blows with opposite color attacks. On PSN this week, this lady may smell like strawberries, but PSN, not so much at the moment. Be aware of phishing scams, and maybe talk to your credit card company about identity protection, because a cyber attack on April 19th may have compromised, your name, address, city, state, zip, country, email address, birth date, PlayStation Network, Curiosity password, login and handle, PSN online ID, also possibly purchase history and billing address, city, state, zip, and your credit card number. But lucky you, thieves did not get those 3 little digits on the back of your card. So there's that on PSN. Next up, old but newly available this week, BlazBlue Calamity Trigger returns for your download pleasure. Calamity Trigger is a high-res 2D fighter from the creators of the Guilty Gear franchise. It received a grade 8.0 from GameSpot.com for having a terrific roster, deep fighting mechanics, beautiful and distinctive visuals, and tons of modes. Check out the full review by Carolyn Pettit. Also now available for download, Mess with Zombies and Dress to Impress in Dead Rising 2. Step into the shoes of Chuck Green and race the watch while combining household items to deadly effect. Reviewer Thomas Zombie Killer McShay must have loved it because he gave it an 8.5 and laid down over 2,000 words to back it up. Also available for download this week is Tekken 6. I'm not exactly sure what this trailer has to do with the game. Okay, that's better. Fight is a large roster of characters, including a kangaroo. Reviewer Randolph Ramsey gave this title an 8.5 grade score for being fun, fast, and tight, having great training options, plenty of characters, a wealth of customization options, and an in-depth scenario campaign mode. Also, you can fight as a kangaroo. Did I mention that? Nothing notable in new DLC this week, but in game trailers, keep an eye out for the Portal 2 co-op trailer, Dungeon Siege 3 Lucas Vignette, Kung Fu Panda 2 trailer, and Escalation multiplayer preview for Call of Duty Black Ops. That's all for now. Check back next week for our top picks of digital downloads.
So back at the beginning of that segment, they show Aaron was talking about a game called Outland. It's like, you know, you're this dark silhouette. There's a lot of like bright yellow colors.
You can like switch between blue and red, and then you have like enemy projectiles that correspond to those colors that you have to work your way through.
Yeah. Tom McShay has been reviewing it. His review is actually going up within the next hour or two, so you guys can get the full read on it. But we've been playing it in the office and enjoying it quite a bit.
It's got the whole Ikaruga color switching thing going on.
Yeah, and it's like the character. Has these sharp controls where you move and it feels almost feline, like you're moving super quick.
You're bouncing off a wall.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool game. Speaking of cool stuff, we're giving away trivia prizes as per usual. Maxwell teased our fabulous prizes earlier,
We
but
do have fabulous
this is like a little Star Wars gift bundle, some T-shirts, hats. 2 lucky winners are going to get this. We also have beta keys for Age of Empires Online, as well as signed posters for Dungeon Siege 3. All of that is coming up in a little bit. We're going to have the questions. You're going to be able to win stuff. But now we've got our second tape demo of the day. Ricardo's back once again, taking a look at Transformers Dark of the Moon.
Hey everybody, it's Ricardo, and I am here with Sean Miller from High Moon Studios, who has brought by Transformers Dark of the Moon, which is kind of a companion to the film, but it's actually a prologue. So Sean, do you want to tell us how it all plays together?
Yeah, we've set our game in basically the months and weeks right before the film starts. It gives a chance to set up the characters, some of the events you're going to see play out in the movie. So at the start of our game, the Decepticons have disappeared since the end of the last film. The Autobots have been searching for them, but haven't been able to find them. They catch a break, and they send Bumblebee in to look into a rogue signal that they've gotten, which of course is coming from a satellite. You may remember that satellite was Soundwave in the last film. He's hacked into one of the satellites. So our mission in the game starts with Bumblebee not as the Guardian that you saw in the last film, but more as the warrior scout that fans of the Transformers series might remember. The mission's crafted around the things that make him special and unique, so you get to see that sort of scout warrior. But you can't do a Transformers game centered around just one character. It's a team-based franchise, and you have to be connected. So in this mission, as well as all of the missions, you're going to encounter other characters that are going to be some of your other favorites from the film. So we're going to show you a segment here where Optimus Prime and Sideswipe have come in to help out.
All right, well, let's dive right in. So this is intro cinema, right? Setting up the level.
Mm-hmm. This is the beginning of the level. Optimus and Sideswipe coming in, gunning, fighting off these Decepticons that have overrun this village down in South America.
But this is a single-player game.
Yeah, the game is, we crafted each of the missions around a single robot, and we picked from what are the famous characters from the movie. We try to pick characters that we know the fans are going to want to play as, and also some of the new Transformers that you're going to see in the movie. We get to set that up and give you some play time as those characters.
Oh man, you don't have the little obnoxious ones from the last movie, do you?
We're not. I don't want to give away all the characters that we have. The focus really is on a lot of
people liked.
Some of the more famous robots from the series.
Okay, good. I'll take that as a positive sign. Now, this is a little bit different from the driving mode that we know. You want to talk to us about this? This isn't quite car mode. This isn't quite robot mode. It's something in between.
Yeah, there's a new type of vehicle combat to the film experience. There's a toy line that Hasbro has. It's called Stealth Force. That's a little misleading because Stealth Force doesn't look very stealthy. But the idea is that they can, as a Transformer, they're a robot and a vehicle all in one. They're not one thing or the other. And so when they're in combat, they want to have access to their weapons. So in car mode, you may have seen it in the last trailer that came out for the NASCAR event, where Bumblebee is driving down the road and then pops open all these panels and weapons out of every area. Well, that allows us to open up this whole area of combat so that we can make you just as dangerous in vehicle form as you are in robot form. Each of the vehicles has their own set of weapons that they get, and those weapons are just as devastating as the ones you get as a robot.
And just to be clear here, aside from the obvious weapons play, Bumblebee is kind of a badass. Seems to be somewhat ninja-like with the hopping and jumping and whatnot. So what's the melee system like in the game?
The melee system is a button click. It's right stick down will do your melee attacks. But each character has special abilities, and we've crafted them around the unique personalities of each of the characters. So for Bumblebee, one of his special abilities is actually this spin kick that he does. In the movies, he's always really agile in his combat. I mean, he really is a very agile warrior. So we wanted to make sure that when you're playing through that you got that part of the experience.
Now, unlike your last Transformers game, which was War for Cybertron, these are definitely levels focused for a specific character. So it's not like once you go through this level, you'll be able to replay it as one of the other robots.
No, we wanted to make sure that each level was crafted around the things that were unique about a particular character. And to do that, we wanted to be able to capture the personality and give you objectives, things that you have to do that you can only do because you're that character. And that's one of the cool things I think about the Transformers in general. The thing that you have is you have these characters that are all different characters, different vehicles, and different personalities. So we wanted to make sure that you got time to spend playing as those characters and create the most authentic experience for each one of those characters as possible. So for instance, in this next section, we're going to show you some Ironhide. Okay, still a ground-based vehicle, but instead of being a muscle car, you're this truck, and of course Ironhide is the weapons expert. All of his abilities are based around his ability to damage. I mean, he's got lots of heavy weapons. His Stealth Force mode is actually more tank-like than Bumblebee, so it's heavier. It plays very different. Controls stay the same though. It's really important that while we're introducing new abilities for each character, the control scheme is consistent throughout each. So here you see Ironhide.
No longer in South America, it looks like.
No, in Ironhide's level, we're in Detroit. Something that's really important in I think the movie experience, you're in both familiar locations as well as exotic, and we want to be able to give you a taste of those kinds of experiences. And what more fun could there be than rampaging through a city as a giant robot?
That is one of the highlights in life as a general rule.
You'll see some of the things that we're going to be able to do in here. He has not only these heavy weapons that you've seen in the previous film. You see the giant weapon that's on his back. I mean, that weapon's probably as big as a large motorcycle, and does damage accordingly. So that's one of his special abilities. He gets access to more weapons than the typical Transformer.
All right, cool. Well, last question. When's it coming out? What platforms? Because we checked out the Xbox 360 version. First time ever, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Our studio has built the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 version. That'll be on shelves June 14th, right before the movie comes out, so you'll be able to play through the game, get things set up before you go see the movie. There are Wii, NDS, and 3DS versions that are being developed by another studio.
Well, thank you, sir. Well, there you go. That is your first look at Transformers Dark of the Moon. It's going to be coming out in the next couple weeks. Be sure and check back on the site. We're going to have a lot more. And now, let's get back to the show.
No, Maxwell, you cannot make a bad more than meets the eye joke. Keep it in check.
But
All
I
right?
had so many. I've got a whole list.
You do? No, you can't. Actually, we did get some questions during that one. Some confusion as to whether or not we take questions about pre-recorded demos. Let me clear that up right now. Wolf5 asked, is this open world or small stages? Maxwell, do you have an answer for that one?
I'm pretty sure it's small stages. When they showed it off during GDC, he talked about how the campaign covers the Autobots and the Decepticons, so depending on which mission you're playing, you'll be playing as one side or the other. So I think it's going to be divided up that way.
And there you have it. Thribs asking if this takes place before or after the prequel comic. Word is it takes place before the movie, but that's all we got. So
I think it's supposed to take place like between the second and then the upcoming movie, somewhere in between there.
All right. Also, fun fact, I looked up The Dark Side of the Moon, not the Pink Floyd album, because I was curious about the origin of that phrase. It can refer to either the side of the moon on which the sun is not shining,
that would make
or
sense.
the far side of the moon that never faces Earth.
That's got some science.
Knowledge.
Yeah.
All right. We have one more tape segment for you folks before we finish up today, and that is, we wanted to bring it to you not just because this game looks really cool, but also because we've had David Jaffe featured on the show for like a couple weeks running now. We want to keep it rolling. Twisted Metal on Location segment coming at you.
Get away from me! Get away from me, you freak!
So we are here actually in a soundstage in a business park. You'd never know there was a freaking soundstage here. It looks like when people come to do your taxes or something. But we're at the Sony San Diego, I think this is their motion capture stage, but they also do a lot of other stuff here shooting. And we're shooting in-game cinematics live action for Twisted Metal PlayStation 3.
And cut.
So we've got Sweet Tooth over there. We're shooting part of his origin story today. We've had Dollface running around. We've got guns, and this is actually a real blank thing. I mean, it's a real 38 special Magna. I don't know what is this? It's a mag. I say mag like I talk about guns all the time.
This is day 8 out of 10. It's been a very productive shoot.
So we got all these great props and costumes and frankly, a lot of really talented people, coming to help us, bring the Twisted Metal universe to life. We did live action movies in TM1, and they were super cheesy and badly done because I directed them. And but it's been a really neat treat to bring in professionals to sort of take these stories that Scott Campbell and Kellen and myself and Sony and Eatsley Play that we've kind of put together over the last year and really actually see them make this real. And it's most of it's on green. I'd say all of it's on green screen, kind of like you've seen Watchmen or 300. And then when you see it, with the group, we have a group in LA called Create, which is doing all the post work, and to see, it's cool, man. I mean, to actually see Sweet Tooth with his hair going through this dark, dingy room, stalking this girl and stuff. And to me, I've always fantasized that wouldn't it be cool that Sweet Tooth is he's kind of like Freddy and Jason in my mind. But I know that for others, he's cool. But but when I see him like that, I'm like, oh, it's finally him being expressed the way, at least in my mind, I've always seen him. So it's awesome. So that's what we're doing today. Oh, actually, we're doing today and last week, and we actually shot tons over last summer. And we're kind of on cheese patrol. It's like everybody knows F&Bs can be super, super cheeseball. And so we've had to spend a lot of time kind of finding the storytelling device that, it's really hard when you're dealing with the subject matter we are. I mean, it's very easy unless you spend tons of money or hire the right people to do it just right. It's very easy for this stuff to become Rocky Horror. You know what I'm saying? But the way they've done it is just, it really feels like this world has come to life, and it's awesome. It's really cool to see. I hope fans love it.
Got it. Thank you. And action.
Put down. Boss, is that her?
No. That's just another dead whore on the side of the road.
Turn and go. One of the first games that I ever got when the new PlayStation came out. We were all waiting for Twisted Metal to come out. So yeah, but the I guess the games in between I sort of lost track of. But it's a solid franchise. Everyone knows Sweet Tooth. Jaffe's he's a character. It's been fantastic. He knows what he wants. There's not a whole lot of games or people doing this or taking this approach to the cutscenes for games, and it's been a pleasure. So.
Okay, so why don't we do? Sarah, why don't you watch the rehearsal?
Okay.
Am I good here? Yeah, more or less. Ready? And action.
What's going on? Get away from me.
Cut.
Cut.
Let's,
Ready? And action.
Get away from me. Get away from me, you freak.
Stop. Cut. Well, we have to do, that's what I'm saying, we have to do the close-up. And then we're getting set up for over Sweet Tooth's shoulder, looking at a picture of the family that he has brutally murdered. We've got 3 more shots today, and we'll definitely get them.
Today?
Sweet Tooth's whole story at a very high level is, you know, what hasn't changed about Twisted Metal Stories is the contestants that enter, they're basically the guy who runs this contest, which in this story is kind of an urban myth. No one even knows if it really exists except people who are really in the know and underground. He basically promises sort of anything your heart desires if you win. And with Calypso, you know, it's not just that he's got a lot of money. You know, it's not like he's, you know, Bill Gates or, you know, he's got abilities that allow people to really kind of, that are willing to kill for this prize, because it could be anything. And in Sweet Tooth's case, who really is sort of the most, in our world, is really kind of the most notorious, infamous serial killer ever. There's one girl that he was never able to kill, and it's kind of almost like a, you know, that itch you got to scratch. He's never failed except this one girl who got away, and his whole thing is he can't do it. He's tried for 10 years to track her down, and so he enters Twisted Metal in hopes that if he wins, Calypso will basically let him find her and kill her. And so what we're shooting this afternoon is fun because we actually get to see his recollection of that night when he tried to kill her and she got away. So there's this hopefully really cool shot of him kind of, you know, lumbering in the foreground and his fire head kind of, you know, shooting through that and pushing the camera through that, and then we kind of see the girl all in slow motion, you know, kind of looking up in terror. And what's cool is all of these are really, you know, they're not, you know, people always say, oh, it's cheesy, it's F&B, and it's like, it can very easily become cheeseball. But so much of this, we looked at things like the Watchmen opening credit sequence, or we looked at, like, you know, some of the super slow-mo shots they did in 300, and that's sort of more of our, you know, inspiration or our North Star. It's like, let's tell more visual poetry, twisted, dark visual poetry that has a lot more voiceover and slow motion and really big music cues, and it is more like a poem or a music video than it is actually, you know, a movie you'd go sit down and see. And Sweet Tooth's like, let's have a conversation. It's the quickest way to go into cheeseball territory, especially when you've got people wearing this stuff. So that's kind of the way it's going to work. So I'm excited to see that today. And then tomorrow is back to work on the game. So the good news, again, these guys are all great and they're pros, so I can leave for a few days and get back to tuning and focusing on the game with Scott and Needs to Play and Sony, and, you know, everything, there's a couple machines going at the same time. So.
We shall all rise up this very night and tear down your tower of sin!
And there you have it, folks. Proof that just because you spend all day dreaming about psychotic killer clown murderers doesn't mean you can't be gainfully employed.
That Sweet Tooth guy sounds like an a-hole.
Yeah, he is a real jerk. All right, now it's time to give you stuff, because we have stuff, and it's cool stuff, and I think you're going to like it. All right, before we get to the show and tell pile here, we've got three questions today. The third one's going to be the show and tell pile. The first one is going to be for beta keys for Age of Empires Online. Did I say that right? Age of Empires Online?
Age of Empires Online?
Yeah,
You got it.
So we're giving away these beta keys there for the PC, you know. So if you want to get one of these, here's the question you're going to have to answer. What is one of the key resources from the classic Age of Empires series? Now, of course, quick reminder, you're going to answer these questions by sending us an email to onthespot@gamespot.com or by clicking the blue Answer Trivia button that's on the side of the page you're looking at right now. Now, the second question is to win Dungeon Siege 3 signed posters to put up in your hallway, bedroom,
in your space,
other walls that you may have available to you. Maxwell, how do people win this?
All right, here we go. In order to win those fabulous prizes, you're going to need to answer, what is the name of the kingdom where Dungeon Siege takes place?
There you go. Maybe,
that's all there is
did you guys mention that in the demo? Do you think?
I don't think so.
Might have to do a little bit of looking. And finally, for the hat, the blue shirt.
Not one shirt.
And then the red shirt.
But two shirts.
Red
two
shirt,
shirts. Blue shirt.
And a book, Star Wars: The Old Republic, Deceived, with this surly-looking fellow on the front. Maxwell's got the question.
Here we go. In the Old Republic, what is the homeworld of the Imperial faction? Homeworld of the Imperial faction.
Excellent. Now again, send us the email to onthespot@gamespot.com or use the Answer Trivia button on the side of the page. Put it into the comments, tweeting it, chat room. You're not going to win, so, you know, just so you know. The chat room, by the way, is alight right now with people sort of peppering stuff in about the NFL draft, which is happening right now. And our very own Sean McInnes and Werner von Goff are there covering the draft, looking at Madden, looking at NCAA. That stuff is going to come back and be hitting the site probably early next week, you think?
I think so.
Yeah, early next week. So be sure to come back for that. And, of course, your daily download of gaming information with Jody Robinson, sync every day. Just like you saw at the top of the show, it's coming tomorrow, Friday. And, of course, we'll be back next Thursday with another Live on the Spot. Now, for everyone in the back, to all of you at home, I'm your host, Chris Waters.
And I'm Maxwell McGee.
Saying thanks a lot for joining us. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.